do if I came to visit you in your house?
The person you're seeing on the screen right now is James Sapphire, also known as Curlyheadjames, Looksmaxxer, Mogger, or Bonesmasher. From the clips that we've just showed you, you might have guessed that this person is far from ordinary looking. However, there is much more to his story than just his daunting physical transformation. His life is a horrifying cautionary tale of what happens when obsession takes over. Driven by his unrelenting need to perfect himself, James has undergone countless surgeries, transforming his appearance into something unrecognizable, something almost monstrous.
You're a freak. Look at that makeup. It's over for you. You're an abomination.
Beneath the surface lies a cocktail of addiction, dangerous habits, and a toxic mindset that's as appalling as his physical transformation. Add to this his blatant racism and deranged behavior, and you're left with a figure whose life feels ripped straight out of a horror movie. So how did James Sapphire go from chasing beauty to becoming an internet legend of infamy? Buckle up, because we're diving into the twisted, jaw-dropping saga of a man who took lookmaxxing to horrifying extremes and lost himself along the way. According to James himself, he was born and raised around Dallas, Texas region by his family and relatives. This is because his father supposedly died in the military before he was ever born, and his mom was deemed unfit to take care of him. There's not a lot known about his mother, but from what we've dug up, her name was Lena Lee Horn. She was a drug addict and an adult film creator. James completely abhorred her birth mother for the work she did, which mainly involved some really nasty kink content. We'll get into the details of his weird dynamics with his mom later on in this video, which he himself recalled in various posts on an incel forum that he frequently used before starting his music internet saga. For now, we'd like you to take a step back from all this and understand how he even landed on such a platform in the first place. While it may be a little hard to believe looking at his downright demonic appearance right now, James was always a good-looking kid. However, as you know very well, this didn't last for long. In fact, he was just like any normal kid in the beginning. He went to school, he had friends, and even some aspirations. A video on his YouTube channel actually shows little James enjoying his first electric guitar.
It's hard to play with this guitar.
The video is captioned, "This is me right after I got back home from the guitar shop. I got this in 4th grade after saving $100 after countless chores and selling candy at school. Thanks to my late pops for recording this. I love you, man." But about everything changed when he was around 14. This is when young James came across a toxic internet forum that completely shattered his confidence and perception of himself. As a teenager, James was complimented fairly a lot for his looks, especially by his classmates and other girls his age in the school. James recalls that a girl once called him a pretty boy, and that's when he looked the term up to discover an online forum called Looksmaxx.org. For those of you unfamiliar, Looksmaxx is an online forum that, on the surface, appears to be about self-improvement. Its entire premise revolves around the idea of maxing out your looks to attract the opposite gender. Sounds harmless enough, right? After all, people wanting to better themselves isn't inherently a bad thing. But don't be fooled. This is no ordinary self-help community. Beneath its thin veneer of improvement lies a cesspool of toxicity, obsession, and outright cruelty. Looksmaxx is less about self-growth and more about a twisted, hyper-focused pursuit of physical perfection, where your worth is measured by nothing more than your appearance. And trust us, the forum is as horrifying as it sounds. Imagine a place where people tear each other apart in the comments, not just critiquing but savagely degrading one another. Users are called ugly, hopeless, and told they'll never be attractive no matter what they do. It's a breeding ground for insecurity and self-loathing, where desperate individuals are encouraged to chase impossible beauty standards through extreme measures, cosmetic surgeries, dangerous and borderline inhumane procedures. And just like hundreds of other people, James also fell victim to this platform as a young teen who was looking for ways to improve his looks. On his now deleted account on the forum, we found numerous threads and posts regarding his looks. his personal life, and his overall dangerous transformation. It all seemingly began when young James Sapphire decided to share his pictures on the Looksmaxxing forum, perhaps hoping for validation or even a shred of encouragement. Instead, he was met with ruthless cruelty. The comments zeroed in on every perceived imperfection, picking him apart like vultures on a carcass. One criticism struck him particularly hard. People called out the spacing between his eyes, labeling it ugly in the blunt, dehumanizing way that forums like this are infamous for. For most people, such harsh words might sting momentarily before being shrugged off. But for young James, it was a devastating revelation. At an impressionable age, when self-esteem is already fragile, this moment planted the seeds of his obsession. Convinced that his flaws made him unworthy, he vowed to fix them, no matter the cost. This wasn't just a decision, it was the beginning of a dangerous spiral that would soon consume his life.
Here's why people find upturned eyes more attractive. Here's a man with upturned eyes. The term for upturned eyes is positive canthal tilt, and it gives a supermodel appearance. It can also give a feminine appearance. Here's the 3 different canthal tilts: positive, negative, and neutral. Neutral is good as well. It gives a masculine appearance. Ian Somerhalder has it, and he's still a slayer. Negative canthal tilt gives a tired appearance. To correct the deformity, you must get a canthoplasty. Follow for more.
In one post on the forum, he talks about his IMAX journey and getting surgeries done like it was no big deal. He said, "Why are my eyes so effing subhuman? My mom literally has A40 and I got this subhuman color because it mixed in the genetic recombination of my dad who has brown eyes. Why the F did I get such area genetics? Everyone in my family literally has light blue or green eyes. That's why I hate going to family parties and haven't been in years because they all sit there like, and I sit there with my inferior eye area genetics." And this is just a minute example of his weird obsession with his looks, including his eyes, jawline, and cheekbone. However, the worst part was that there were people supporting him and confirming his doubts, eventually fueling his severe face dysmorphia. And as you might expect, this toxic forum and his unrelenting obsession with Looksmaxxing warped James Sapphire into something barely resembling a human being. His journey into this madness started alarmingly young. At just 14 years old, he was already undergoing cosmetic procedures, desperately trying to mold his face into an ideal dictated by strangers on the internet. But the surgeries were only the beginning. James dove headfirst into a dangerous cocktail of pills, supplements, and steroids, all in a bid to force his body to conform to the exaggerated standards of so-called Chad aesthetics, the overly angular, hyper-masculine features that some now joke resemble a real-life version of handsome Squidward. Except in James's case, the results weren't cartoonish, they were grotesque. With every surgery and every pill, his pursuit of perfection only pushed him further into a nightmarish transformation, leaving behind any semblance of the person he once was. What makes this even more horrifying is that his obsession wasn't driven by personal goals or self-fulfillment. It was a desperate attempt to appease a community that thrives on tearing people apart. James Sapphire is what happens when insecurity meets an unforgiving, toxic environment, and the results are nothing short of chilling. For the record, this is him before the surgeries. And this is him after his recent transformation. We mean he doesn't even remotely resemble his past self. In one of his posts, he admitted to taking things like HGA and MK677. If you don't know what they are, a quick Google search will tell you that these are highly dangerous steroids. If you look up their side effects, the internet will tell you that it is illegal to possess ibimatorin found in MK677 without authority. While it's marketed online as a substance to build muscle, ibutamorin is technically considered a poison, is banned in sports, and has a range of dangerous side effects. Reported side effects include increased appetite, swelling, anxiety, numbness, and muscle pain. However, all of this was just the beginning. As time progressed, James' mental state and his appearance descended so much that he had to go to rehab for drug use in late 2023. James clearly had a rough childhood, and his perception of vanity was not only highly unrealistic, but also downright scary. According to people, this had a lot to do with his upbringing and the challenges he faced while growing up. Remember when we said that we'd get into more details about his relationship with his mom? Now seems like a perfect time to mention all the nastiness surrounding his deranged mother. As we mentioned earlier in the video, James didn't grow up with his parents, not to mention that he was extremely insecure about his looks growing up. He thought that his family was more beautiful, and he's always been the black sheep. However, there was much more to it than just this. We came across a really disgusting post from James himself, where he talked about his mom and her absurd behavior. He said, "My mom admitted that she's attracted to me and that she does fart for money on bait webcamming. $300 to off to her farts. Her name is Lena Lee Horn. This is devastating to me. She's evil and mentally ill. There's a picture of one of her slaves that pays her to do things to him, such as a makeshift using Snickers bar and carrots. My mom is also 300 pounds, with fake 700cc and no teeth. I don't know why guys like her. Proof she's mom with us at Chick E. Cheese. She gets mad and wonders why I block her, and it's because I don't want my fans on TikTok at James Sapphire Official to know my mom's a fart actress. And on top of that, my mom tries to call me Hunter Horn, which isn't my legal name. She's mad I took my dad's last name Sapphire because he's a piece of and she hates him. What do I do, man? What would you rate my mom?" In another post, he claimed that his mom wanted him to become his partner in work and that she would pay for more of his surgeries if he agreed. He wrote, "She wants me to become a partner in her business. She said, set me up a bank account today so I can help pay for your next surgeries. You can take half of my bait money and you can get rhinoplasty in 2 months. Since I make $600 a day, you can take $300. Honestly, this entire situation is both disgusting and horrifying. If what James claims in his posts is even remotely true, then his mother truly seems like a deeply flawed and at times horrible person. The details he's shared paint a bleak and unsettling picture of his upbringing, one that might help explain, though not excuse, the person he's become today. Now, we can't say with absolute certainty that everything James has shared is true, but much of it does seem to align with known details about his life. His posts often blur the line between fact and exaggeration, but if even half of it's real, it's clear that his relationship with his mother was toxic at best. And as if all this was not enough, she's also a serious addict, which meant she was in a fit state to take care of James. As for his mother's current whereabouts, they remain a mystery. We don't even know if she's still alive. What we do know is that she's been homeless for quite a while.
Find ways to relocate the homeless.
I haven't heard.
There she is. That's my mom.
Right there. Okay, that looks like the woman.
Says she's been homeless for 8 months, despite what the airport says about trying to relocate the homeless. Says nobody has talked to her about moving.
No.
In fact, she says the airport seems to welcome them.
I'm grateful to the police for letting us come out here and stuff.
So all in all, James had a horrible mother. And while this is enough to make us feel a little sorry for him, it still doesn't explain his descent into complete and utter madness. Looking at some of his childhood videos, you can't help but feel sorry for this guy. Yet, there is a darker side to him that couldn't be justified even if we tried. For the sake of this video, we're going to divide his story into 3 different sagas. The first one is the high school Looksmaxx.org saga. We've pretty much covered everything in this first saga up until now. During this period, he used to attend Wiley East High School and excessively posted on the forum. However, he dropped out of school in 2022 when his videos and online antics became viral. According to James, he was bullied a lot in school. There's a video pinned on his TikTok account where he's being pressed by another school student.
Off your fucking kids too. And them bitches is mine. You're not getting them back. And I put that on my mother too. You're not getting them hoes back. Do you understand me?
James also claimed that everyone made life hell for him at school. They would steal his stuff, chase him with baseball bats, and threaten to beat him. This was also the reason why, according to him, he lost all of his friends. So when things started getting out of hand, James decided to drop out and focus on his online persona. And by his online persona, we mean a ton of surgeries and steroids. However, James never truly forgot how everyone treated him at the school. He would remember in lengthy rants on the forum how people abused him. He would even say how he would love to take revenge for all the humiliation he faced at the school, just because he was better looking than the rest of the guys. In one of his posts, he expressed how he can't stop thinking about his bullies. He said, "All day, every effing day, I'm thinking about this school and what they've done to me, becoming the biggest clown and jester at my school, and no one ever gave an effing chance to be myself. It's all a big effing blur. I barely remember anything about high school because of the constant fear of having to look behind my back to make sure no one is trying to beat me or shiv me, etc." From his posts and his mildly emotional rants, it's evident that this chapter of James's life was anything but great. He was just a kid at the time, grappling with insecurities while being relentlessly influenced by the toxic culture of online incel forums. The trolls he interacted with preyed on his vulnerability, feeding into his obsession with looksmaxxing and shaping his worldview in dangerous ways. But as time went on, James didn't remain the victim for long. Instead, he began to mirror the very toxicity that had been directed at him. Slowly but surely, he evolved into a troll himself. His behavior took a sharp and unsettling turn, becoming more erratic, hateful, and downright disturbing. On his streams, he didn't hold back, openly hurling racial slurs and making sexist remarks as if it were second nature. He took to platforms like Omegle, where he would trash talk random strangers, often going out of his way to provoke and demean them.
You're a freak. Look at that makeup. It's over for you.
This stark shift in his personality marked a clear turning point in his life. What started as a young boy seeking validation had now spiraled into a man filled with anger, spite, and the need for attention, no matter how negative. This period also set the stage for what would become his infamous TikTok and music saga, a chaotic chapter that would push his notoriety to new heights.
It was like 2 months ago, I'd say.
This is so brutal.
Surprisingly, this period of James's life began on a far better note than his high school years, at least initially. After dropping out of school, he finally started focusing on something he seemed genuinely passionate about, making music. For a brief moment, it felt like James was turning a corner, pursuing something that had always been a spark of joy in his otherwise tumultuous life. From what we've gathered, music wasn't just a passing interest for James, it was something he'd been drawn to since childhood. Various old clips of him as a kid show him happily experimenting with instruments, singing and immersing himself in melodies. It's almost bittersweet to think that this creative outlet, one of the few positive constants in his life, could have been the key to a better path. There is also this video of 12-year-old James playing Vehicle by Jim Peterick and the Ides of March guitar solo jazz band. So you get the idea. The kid has always been interested in music, and after dropping out of school, this seemed like a sensible option for him. However, to be honest, most of his songs had been pretty crappy. For instance, his first viral song called Are You Straight? This song was actually trolled a lot for its lyrics. However, at the same time, most of these songs garnered a lot of views, indicating that despite everything James had done to his appearance, he might still have a loyal music fan base. You might have also heard his other song called Together. It became popular as a meme song on TikTok and Instagram, gaining about 1 million plays. In this song, James sings about his dream girl. And while the song was not so bad in itself, it was still taken as a joke for the cringe lyrics. Overall, it seemed like James had found his niche in music. However, this was far from the truth, because this guy just couldn't be away from the drama. But before jumping to the next more sinister saga of his life, we'd like to talk a little about his musical career, since it appears to be a big part of his internet personality. If you look at all of his music, you'll realize that he's experimented with different genres of music, carving a very specific niche for himself. His most popular song to date is called Black Pill Curse. From what we know, it came out in 2022. Unlike some of his other popular tracks like Y2K and Together, this particular song stood out as something entirely different. It delved into much darker themes, accompanied by visuals that were both unsettling and outright bizarre. For many, this song marked a pivotal moment, not just in James's career, but in the broader internet culture. It became a kind of catalyst, jump-starting the popularity of several terms and concepts that are now commonplace in online meme culture. Terms like mewing, mogging, and blackpill all found their way into the public lexicon around this time, partly due to James's growing influence. For those unfamiliar, mewing refers to a controversial facial reshaping technique, where people press their tongues against the roof of their mouth in the hopes of improving their jawline.
Like, for real, bro.
Mogging is another term that originated from online looksmaxxing and incel communities. It's shorthand for outclassing or dominating someone in terms of physical appearance or attractiveness. Essentially, to mog someone means to look so much better than them that they're completely overshadowed or humiliated by comparison. There are actually tons of mogging videos of James floating out and about on the internet, each one more cringe-inducing than the last.
I found someone with the nicest hair ever. Hurry up. You do have really nice hair. Face is not it, though.
What's bad about the face?
What's Toy Story? She has the same voice as her crushy crush. Oh, yeah, I would totally give you a chance. Fix the face a little. It has a Chad chin. You have a Chad face, bro.
I thought girls only want Chads.
No, we don't want Chads.
What do you want?
Anything but Chads.
So you want incels, right?
Goodbye? No, don't skip. You've got nice hair, but an ugly face. So wrong.
So she said I had a bad face, but did you guys see her interpupillary distance? It was so wide.
We mean, what even is interpupillary distance, and why on earth is James so fixated on it? Seriously, it's mind-boggling how deeply obsessed he is with the most minute details of his and everyone else's face. To break it down, interpupillary distance, IPD, refers to the measurement between the centers of your pupils. It's a concept that's typically relevant for things like fitting eyeglasses or setting up 3D glasses, not for obsessive self-scrutiny. But for James, it's like the holy grail of his face's perceived perfection. James's incorporation of these ideas into his work didn't just reflect the toxic forums he frequented, it amplified them, bringing these niche, often unsettling concepts into the mainstream online culture. His influence helped shape not only a wave of memes, but also a darker side of internet discourse that still lingers today. And then there was this thing that he called Jestermaxxing.
Y2K guys, go stream that song.
Well, at least he's being truthful because I am gay. It's validating.
Yo guys, check out
This is validating.
Ow.
Jestermaxxing is a term that originates from the same online communities focused on looksmaxxing and self-improvement, but it takes a slightly different and darker approach. It refers to the practice of intentionally acting like a clown or fool to gain attention, often in a desperate attempt to make oneself more likable or to avoid social rejection. Honestly, all of these concepts are just bizarre, But this is not it. He also popularized a concept called bone smashing. For those of you who don't know, bone smashing refers to an extreme and dangerous practice that some individuals in Looksmaxxing communities engage in, where they attempt to alter the shape or structure of their facial bones to achieve a more aesthetic appearance. This often involves using non-medical harmful methods, such as applying pressure to the face in various ways, or engaging in practices that could cause physical harm or deformity in an attempt to reshape features like the jawline or cheekbones. This concept took off so much in incel community that James was actually featured in a video by Know Your Meme.
Heard of bone smashing? Yeah, it's as wild as it sounds. And James Sapphire, aka Curlyheadjames, is the face of this bizarre TikTok trend. James rose to fame in the early 2020s by popularizing Looksmaxxing techniques, including bone smashing, which involves hitting your face with a hammer to sculpt a sharper jawline. Don't try this at home, folks. His gaunt cheekbones and razor-sharp jawline earned him viral attention, but also cemented his place in incel culture. By 2024, Sapphire had deleted his social media, but not before inspiring a mix of fan edits, parodies, and viral documentaries. One TikToker even chronicled the evolution of his face like it was a Marvel origin story. So anyway, is bone smashing the art of self-improvement or a free ticket to the ER? You decide.
Not only this, but he also handed himself in an interview, explaining his bizarre bone-smashing technique to improve his facial features. He said, "I have a ton of regrets in life. Bone smashing is a cope for me, a safe space even if it is just a placebo. Each time I pick up the hammer, I feel empowered by each hit, and I know I will achieve my goal. All of the times I was beat up at school, approached once by the baseball team who had bats threatening to kill me, thrown into bathrooms, and scuffed up and bullied, each hit I've had to endure from normies is represented by my smashes. And not only is it an emotional scar, but it's now a physical scar shown visibly on my face." However, despite what James may believe, bone smashing is not just ineffective, it's downright dangerous. It's a practice that can cause irreversible harm to one's body, not only failing to achieve the desired aesthetic, but also risking permanent damage to the facial bones, nerves, and soft tissues. There's no scientific evidence to support the idea that applying extreme pressure to bones or using unsafe methods can result in a more attractive face. In fact, it often leads to bruising, fractures, or even deformities that can be impossible to fix without expensive surgeries. However, with his music career going pretty well, to everyone watching, it seemed like James might finally be on the right path, that maybe he was starting to find a sense of purpose and direction. But, as is often the case with someone trapped in a toxic cycle, it was already too late for him to redeem himself. His personality had already been morphed into something indistinguishable from the very trolls and incels he once despised. He didn't even realize when he crossed that line, when he became the kind of person he had once criticized. Digging deeper into his past, we found some eye-opening details. After dropping out of college, James briefly worked at Walmart or dollar store, but just like everything else in his life, he couldn't keep the job. He described working a 9-to-5 shift as slave labor. It became clear that James didn't want to work and didn't want to contribute to society in any meaningful way. Instead, he turned to his social media platforms for an outlet, focusing all of his energy on building his online persona. But it wasn't until 2021 that things took a drastic turn. That's when James began posting relentlessly on TikTok and Instagram, filling his pages with increasingly deranged and unsettling content. His TikTok reels in particular were an endless stream of cringy, borderline disturbing videos. Watching them, you can't help but feel a sense of discomfort. This was no longer just a desperate cry for attention, this was a full-on dive into a pit of strange, cringe-worthy behavior, most of which was so questionable that it left people wondering whether he had truly lost touch with reality. For instance, look at this.
Hello. Be honest, could I pull you? Don't lie. Why? Is it because I'm not attractive enough?
It's over.
And on top of all his weirdness, he also started claiming that he doesn't shower or wipe his ass. He also made one of the most iconic posts we've ever seen, a moment that encapsulates just how far gone he really was. He posted a long rant saying some of the most disgusting stuff. He said, "I haven't showered in 8 months. Don't brush my teeth, eat my boogers, drink urine, don't wipe, don't clean my after I jerk off 10 times a day, sit in my room all day playing Roblox, I don't shave or clean my fingernails and toenails, didn't cut them, plus I have lice." Well, you might have an idea now what we're talking about when we said this guy was far too gone to redeem himself. But this was all the beginning of what we can only call his properly deranged saga, the point where everything truly spiraled out of control. This period marked the final straw in his bizarre and twisted journey. Trust me, when we say you're not ready for what's coming your way, we mean it. What follows is a level of madness and self-destruction that goes beyond anything you could imagine. You'll find yourself questioning not only his actions, but the mindset behind them, wondering how someone could become so lost in their own delusion. If what you think he said in the post was satire, then think again, because James started posting videos of him eating his nose boogers, drinking his and even eating his own feces. If you're easily triggered by such videos, then we would suggest you skip a few seconds ahead.
Yo, what's up, guys? You see this on my finger? I'm gonna send the video to my story very soon once I eat it. Low key, it does not look too bad.
In addition to everything else, James seemed to have this twisted compulsion to push the boundaries of how blatantly wrong and offensive he could be. It wasn't just his obsession with his looks that spiraled out of control. His behavior on social media became increasingly toxic and shocking. He would post outright racist stories on his Instagram, often doubling down on the worst stereotypes imaginable. Even more disturbing, he would appear on live streams where kids were present, using racial slurs with zero hesitation. He'd call their skin color dirty and spew vile comments that revolved around white supremacy, constantly throwing around the N-word like it was a punchline in his warped, hateful narrative. His actions weren't just offensive, they were cruel, targeted, and reflective of a deeply disturbing mindset. What's worse is that he seemed to revel in the chaos he created, as though being as vile as possible gave him some twisted sense of power or validation. Just see for yourself.
Bro, okay. Why you look like Pennywise?
Why do you look like you're gay? Like, what is that hairline? Look at your fucking nose.
What's wrong with my fucking nose? Look at your
Everything's too big. Like, look at your face,
okay,
bro. Your chin is so weak.
Why and saying the freaking N-word? So
why is your voice so high? What the?
Say again.
Is that like 9?
Fuck you, damn it.
God, you act like, oh my god, I'm so scared of him. I'm so
Look
scared.
Look at his fucking face. Just his face scares me in general.
Bro, what is wrong with y'all's teeth? y'all are like the fucking Snaggletooth gang.
You look like funny.
Let me see your teeth.
Pennywise.
Let me see your teeth.
Yeah,
how does it feel to get mogged?
What the f is wrong with you?
What's wrong with you? You
Looksmaxxer.
Do you know that's racist?
Yeah, I'm white, and that makes me better than you because I mog you, subhuman.
Because you're saying
yeah, and because I mog you also, I have more bone in my face than you ever will have. So there's that.
We honestly found this particular clip so repulsive that it was downright torture to sit through it. However, it isn't only racist remarks that make people's blood boil. It's also the fact that he's quite unapologetic about it. On the other hand, James is busy churning out music videos, and surprisingly enough, it seems like he's making a decent amount of money from all the chaos he creates. But here's where things take yet another dark turn. Because instead of putting that money towards something meaningful or even remotely positive, James uses it to fuel his raging drug addiction. Yes, you heard that right. James isn't just addicted to endless facial surgeries and steroids. He's also deeply entangled in the world of illicit substances. Throughout 2022 and 2023, James Sapphire's life took an even darker turn. His substance use spiraled out of control, fueling his erratic online behavior and bizarre personality shifts. By late 2023, this lifestyle caught up to him in the worst way possible. James overdosed. The overdose wasn't just a near-death experience, it pushed him into a full-blown drug-induced psychosis. And looking back, the warning signs were glaringly obvious. His online presence during this time was downright chaotic, posting incomprehensible rants, making wild accusations, and exhibiting deeply disturbing behavior, even by his standards. It was as if the thin thread holding him together had finally snapped. After his overdose, the severity of his condition couldn't be ignored. Authorities intervened, and by late 2023, James was sent to a state-mandated rehab program. It was a last-ditch effort to save him from himself and force him to confront the destructive choices that had brought him to this point. Whether rehab marked the beginning of a new chapter or just another temporary fix remains to be seen. But it's clear that his descent into addiction nearly cost him everything: his health, his sanity, and his life. As of now, James Sapphire is still in the process of recovering from his methamphetamine addiction. He's reportedly seeing a therapist regularly. In an apparent effort to turn over a new leaf, James has deleted almost all of his social media accounts, wiping away much of his chaotic online presence. However, his path to stability remains far from certain. Financially, he now survives on disability benefits from the military, a lifeline he qualifies for due to his deceased father's service. Though James appears to be trying to piece his life back together, his journey serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of living for external validation, the dangers of addiction, and the importance of addressing mental health early on. James Sapphire's story is a chilling cautionary tale of what happens when young, impressionable minds are exposed to the toxic depths of incel platforms. These forums prey on vulnerabilities, tearing down self-esteem and replacing it with a distorted, obsessive worldview. For children and teenagers who are still developing their sense of self-worth, the impact can be devastating. They become trapped in an endless cycle of self-hatred and unattainable standards, losing their identity in the process. Well, this is all we have on the downfall of the internet's infamous Looksmaxxer. If you've stayed this far into the video, don't forget to comment down below and let us know your opinions on James Sapphire. Do you think his life could have been any different if he never discovered the incel forum Looksmaxx? Or do you think whatever happened to him was the consequence of his own deranged actions and ideology?